be playing The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. What this means is we get to meet another historical figure. We get to meet an actual...
To think, Wilson, said Sholmes, turning his head languidly in my direction.
Actual historical figures, which is bad news for us.
Which we have observed.
Bad,
Indeed,
real bad news for us, actually.
There may be another part to this story that we are yet to discover. His eyes wandered, following the
True AC, though the British barrister outfit is very dumb, so you know.
Him to the distant memory of that snowy evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back.
Bum bum bum.
Lit in the soft glow of gas lamps, a most extraordinary scene had been set. And under the cover of a light fog, the curtain had risen silently on the insoluble mystery of our invisible killer.
This case is honestly really great. This case is phenomenal, but also, there's a lot going on here. 19th of February. Oh gosh, Escudo with 5 months at tier 1. It's apparently your sub anniversary. Keep on rocking. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the sub. Oh no! Luckily, we do not have Jack the Ripper hot takes. In this case. We'll get there. This one is in fact far sillier. Did you sleep last night, Mr. Naruhodo? No, not at all. It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms were so luxurious, I felt like we were staying at a palace. And with all the gaslights twinkling, it was brighter than day even in the middle of the night. What about the enormous beds? After my time on the SS Buria, I wasn't going to waste a single inch of that space. I spent the entire night rolling from one side of the mattress to the other. Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you can only dream of normally. Except, when I learnt that we earned £3 for the rooms, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. Oops, sorry about that. The building was so impressive and the entrance so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking. Jenkins the Stabber, Jimothy the Shiver, Jacob the Dicer. Oops. In a lodging house in Japan, that sum of money would put a roof over your head for a whole year. £3. Honestly wild. I did try, but oh, I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when we were presented with the bill. Oh. Oh. Susato. Yeah, I really am sorry. Well, never mind. We must find some more affordable lodging straight away, though. If we're not careful, our entire stipend will be used up in 10 days or less. London is a scary place. They're just staying at a real fancy hotel. There is exactly one hotel in London in this video game, so we'll see it in like Game 2 Case 5, but that's it. Also, hey, guess what? Hey, guess what? Guess what? Having the name Yuzuru will not save you, bot. It will not save you. Goodbye. 200 quid in 2017. Oh, yes, well. Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We have come to report on the outcome of the trial at the Old Bailey yesterday. Susato-san is amazing. She doesn't bat an eyelid, even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart. Yes, I believe you had a very comprehensive initiation into British courtroom practices. Oh, yes, it was very eye-opening, thank you. And, in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruhodo performed his duty to the end. Yes, I've already been apprised of events. You conducted a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed. Oh! No longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a fully fledged lawyer. My country is delighted to welcome young talent from such a remote eastern land. Thank you very much. Not barrister. For no particular reason, apart from the localization prefers the term lawyer to barrister, but you know, that's fine. Thank you very much. So, I'm a lawyer now. Now, in view of your new appointment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on at once. I trust that won't be a problem? Another case? Already? Nothing trains a lawyer better than practical experience. I'm sure I don't sense dissatisfaction, do I? It's just that yesterday's trial ended unusually. I haven't quite come to terms with it. What's to come to terms with? The man was cleared. What more were you hoping for? The culpability of the defendant has not at the present time been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to proffer judgment. Well, Lord Renziques, it's been a pleasure, so it has. Lizard! I absolutely have you see the shit Edward Said on a hotkey. There's a button on my stream deck that you cannot actually see that just says orientalism.meme. And as for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense. Ugh. I just can't help wondering if Mr. McGilded really was innocent? Mr. Naruhodo! It's just I never managed to ascertain the truth. And then the trial ended. Well, you needn't let it trouble you for a second longer. Sorry? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? Magnus McGilded passed away, immediately following the trial. No! What? Mr. McGilded is dead? Birds. I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds until my next engagement. Time enough to talk. I don't understand. What happened? How can he be dead? After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you'll presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled into the courtroom. We might be inside Big Ben. It's not totally clear. We're supposedly in Whitehall, though. So, yeah, definite maybe. Yes, of course, that was the scene of the crime which Mr. McGilded had been accused of. Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by some other matter, the omnibus went up in flames. No. How could such a thing have happened? That is being investigated as we speak, but already the police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage as that of McGilded. That's awful! The man must have slipped inside whilst the bailiff's attention was elsewhere. The bailiff really needs to pay more attention. And how could that have happened? That is also being investigated as we speak. We all have an office in the clock tower, it's the British way. Fair enough, Oregon Geek, you know better than I do. Also, were those birds inside or outside his window? They were inside the window. He just has them living, just vibing inside the clockwork. Thinking back now, immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back into the courtroom to look at the omnibus. Well, I must be making tracks now. 'Tis time for the inspection. Sorry? What inspection? They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present there for... If I could be present for it myself. An inspection of the omnibus? Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage. But then who is Mr. McGilded talking about? Never mind that now. The Yard is making a thorough investigation. This matter is no longer any concern of yours. Leave it to the police. Poor Mr. McGilded. So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court? Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it was... wow! Mr. Naruhodo means that the whole experience was steeped in the solemnity of Great Britain's long history. It's really a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old. Wow, Suzato-san has such a way with words. And you seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones. The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can. His coat is amazing. Honestly, you're right, it is an Inverness coat, but turned into like a dress coat, and is immense. Also, yes, they are comparing here to the Meiji, Western-styled justice system, which, to my knowledge, in the 1890s was, you know, getting better. Right, because one of the first events in the game, Zoe, that we didn't actually, we talked about a bit in the first stream, is the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. Which actually ends, consular jurisdiction between Japan and Great Britain in 1894. So, kind of before then, visitors to Meiji, Japan would often be not prosecuted if they committed a crime. They could just kind of be shipped off back to the consulate and then shipped out. So, you know, that's fine. Let's remember that London took a long, long while to adopt a proper police force. Definitely true. But by the 18 question marks, they definitely had one, and this is Sherlock Holmes more than it is historical Victorian London. So, we get the delightfully and mildly incompetent Scotland Yard. The most advanced in the world, is it? It was fortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair. Simple? That was simple? As I believe I mentioned yesterday morning, it was a trial you couldn't lose. I don't mean to be contrary, Lord Strongheart, but that case was anything but simple. The circumstances of the case were so incriminating, I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm still finding it hard to believe that I managed to get a favorable verdict. Is something funny? Alright, Stefan. Have a good night. Thank you. Enjoy the VOD when you get back. No, my apologies. However, the fact is that you did receive the not guilty verdict you've set out to achieve. And that can only be attributed to exceptional talent. Wouldn't you agree? Well, I don't know about that. Strongheart? Jesus Christ. Well, never mind. You exceeded my expectations, I freely admit. That much, at least, is an undeniable truth. Simple, Van Zeeks only threw one... No. He did smash one wine glass, and he yeeted the second one. So honestly, we're doing pretty good. Honestly. The boot only came out once. So, we'll take it. Which is precisely why I prepared the new case for you that I mentioned before. What's going on? What was he going to say before? Could you perhaps give us some more details about the new case you mentioned? Don't tell me it's a murder and the trial starts in 10 minutes. Don't worry, it's nothing so alarming or quite so urgent as your last assignment. In fact, this case is completely different. Should I expect him to eat more wine glasses in the future cases? You should expect him to eat whole wine bottles in future cases, Lizard. The man has a whole case of glasses that he special orders specifically so he can smash them when we are being a dumbass. I wish I was exaggerating. Oh, I see. Did he just read my mind? That is to say, no one has died. As of yet. I love him. I love him too. See, Chad thought he was a jerk. I love him. And the trial will not be today. There is plenty of time to research the case thoroughly. "23 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds to be precise." So the trial's tomorrow then. Is everything alright? Oh, yes, I'm just a little confused, that's all. Yesterday's trial was, well, it's left me wondering if I'm really cut out for being a lawyer. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I don't know if I could stand facing in that, if I could face standing in that courtroom again after Mr. McGilden's trial. Ah yes, I nearly forgot. There is one similarity with yesterday's case. Once again, there is currently no one to advocate for the defense. Oh, if the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented. And if that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome. The most terrible end awaits the defendant. Yes, that's right. Ugh, here we go again. Exactly. Big Symphony of the Night energy. Objection! You steal men's souls and make them your slaves! Quality, we need that quality Richter Belmont voice acting. What is a man? Your time is up. You will have to excuse me. I would advise you to begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. There is now but 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 39 seconds until the court sits. Last time he mentioned the 23 hours, he said there was plenty of time. And one more thing, Mr. Naruhodo. There is something I should like to ask you. Oh, what's that? Yesterday, you remarked upon something that you intend to see through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I would be interested to hear exactly what you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds. Oh, well, Kazuma always used to say, you see, that he wanted to learn how the greatest justice system in the world worked, so he could change ours in Japan. Now that he's gone, I'd like to continue that, to work towards that myself. And there's another thing. Oh! Another thing? Continue. On the way here, on the steamship, he said something to me. There's something very important that I have to do. Something very important? And what exactly would that be? He never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have done if he'd ever made it to Great Britain. You're out of time. Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion. Mr. Naruhodo, what's all this about? Mr. Asogi never once mentioned anything of the sort to me. I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand. You have not missed much of Ace Attorney, don't worry. We are in the first major cutscene. I've taken the liberty of summoning the police inspector in charge of the case. He'll be able to apprise you of the details. How long has he been there? So, I wish you the best of luck, and bid you farewell. There's something very important that I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean? I wish I knew, but honestly, he never told me. Anyway, we'd better talk to the detective, don't you think? Yes, you're right. I hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. Okay, but first, I wish to look around. This must be the Lord Chief Justice's desk. I believe it's made of marble. It looks more like an over-the-top tombstone that's toppled over to me. I think that's your fanciful imagination at work again, Mr. Naruhodo. It feels like everything that's normally made of wood and paper at home is made of bricks and stone here. Hey, that's actually not a bad take. I know, that's why this place feels so overbearing, I'm sure. Clock. Is this some kind of clock? Actually, I think we might be inside some sort of giant clock. But those gears are larger than anything you'd find on a steam locomotive even. It's eerie. Do you think clocks are some sort of hobby of his? The Lord Chief Justice, I mean? Well, boys do enjoy fiddling around with machines, don't they? I'm not sure you could fiddle with cogs that size, and I'm certain you couldn't call him a boy. Still, it's amazing how little noise the cogs make considering how large they are. There's actually something quite soothing about their precise rhythm. Susato! Just look at all the naughty books packed together on these shelves. They go from floor to ceiling. This is not Lestrade. We already met Lestrade, this dude. We met Lestrade last case. And they're all books that you couldn't hope to come by in Japan. It's like a dream. Yes, a very bad dream. They're not all about British law either. These are books about the judicial systems of other Western nations. France, Germany, Spain, Holland. What about Russia? Why do you ask? I was wondering about asking the Lord Chief Justice how you say wardrobe in Russian. What do you think? I think perhaps it's a thought best abandoned. Garderobe. Yeah, it's yard as in a literal enclosed space, not yard as in a distance. Garder in Old Norse. Yard in Old English. Look at these menacing metal giants facing each other across the room. I believe yes, they're suits of armor. Oh, right. I thought maybe they were like the lion dogs we have in Japan guarding shrine gates. No, not at all. In fact, in Europe, suits of armor like these are always possessed by evil spirits, you know. You'll love to see it. Based take from Susato. And they roam around in the middle of the night. Really? Is there nothing you don't know, Mr. Susato? This book tells me everything I need to know about everything. If you're ever unsure, just ask. Naruhodo, you have none but armor in Japan. You should know this. Yeah. Yeah, you'd think. Where did she get that incredible tome? Based. She printed out the Wikipedia entry. That's right. But also, extremely base take. They are all possessed. The fantasy trope of inhabited suits of armor with poltergeists or other spirits, which is very Victorian. Right? I mean, that's the thing that emerges in like proto-fantasy in the Romantic movement. With a healthy dose of actual folklore blended in. Scooby-Doo Astro. And I love that Susato doesn't know everything. Right? It's a thing I adore about this. Just, it's a small thing. Is that Susato's knowledge is everything the game needs it to be, but it still is colored by the fact that everything she knows comes from what books about England were accessible in Japan at the time, and that means that it's intensely colored by traditional Japanese beliefs as much as just being the tutorial. And it's such a small detail, like on the boat, right, explaining why the boat doesn't sink, by not talking about buoyancy, but by comparing it to the fact that the islands of Japan are floating. It's a good character moment. I love it. Also, yes. Who's ready to meet Inspector Tobias Gregson? Could we trouble you? What do you think? Lovely weather, isn't it? What's the weather got to do with anything? Listen to me, you young Japanese upstart. Some frippery about the weather doesn't get every English gent in out of your hand, you know? But Suzato-san told me it was foolproof. I'm a busy man. A very busy man. There's a crime scene to investigate, but I'm here having to give the likes of you a talking to. Oh, I'm ever so sorry. And, Ahmed Wala the King, welcome. Can you imagine what the other officers there will be saying? I haven't seen Gregson now, have you? Nah, he's too busy with the big rigs these days. All because of some bumpkin who's here in a jaunt from country I've never even heard of. Hear that ripping sound? That's my reputation at the yard going to tatters. There's no need to rip us apart as well. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer. Huh? It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. It's lovely weather we're having today, isn't it? It is unseasonably fine, I grant you. London winters don't see a lot of sunshine. Unbelievable! How did she pull that off? Have you considered how greasy the interior of his mouth would be after eating all that fish and chips? Look, we do not talk about Gregson's hygiene. Let the man have his pocket food. The infinicone of fish and chips demands sacrifices. So, Lord Strongheart has asked me to fill you in on the case. The name's Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson to you. I'm from Scotland Yard. Gregson? Inspector Gregson? What's the matter with Suzato-san? Does this detective's name mean something to her? Inspector, are you perhaps the Inspector Gregson? You're acting like you know this man, Mr. Sato, but he's a London detective. Oh, I do know him. Very well, in fact. Very well? Yes, he features prominently in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Oh, in that publication. What's it called again? Rants Magazine? That's right. Inspector Gregson and Mr. Sholmes enjoy a wonderful friendly rivalry. Really? You rival the great Mr. Sholmes? That's incredible. Oh, well, I don't know about that. Mr. Sholmes isn't a professional like myself, of course, but he does come up with the goods from time to time. Chat, I forgot that some of you weren't here in the last couple weeks. We'll have to introduce you very soon to the glory of Sherlock Holmes. Mr. Sholmes is equally complimentary about you, Inspector, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Grayson is the pick of a bad lot of all the Scotland Yarders. Those were his own words. That's his highest praise? Well, Mr. Sholmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see. That he is not. And thanks to that magazines, my name's known all over London town now. That's great, isn't it? I have to admit that to start I was a little, well, flattered by all the attention. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, and my reputation at the yard went through the roof. Well, that's wonderful. No, it is not. There's nothing more sinister than the man on the street. People are always looking at me now. They're whispering rumors about me under their breath, I'm sure. Rumors? Are you quite sure? He's changed since he started appearing in those stories. The fame's gone to his head. Stuff like that. Gosh, do you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you? Like I said, they whisper, so I can't catch exactly what they're saying, but I know what folk are like. I'm sure that's what they're saying. As sure as eggs is eggs. I get the feeling this detective could be very hard work. Oh dear, perhaps his own rise to fame does change someone. The infinite kind of fish and chips the paper is actually rubber, and we're just going for it. Anyway, we were about the case that the Lord Chief Justice mentioned before. Nothing to tell, really. As far as we're concerned, the yard, it couldn't be simpler. Oh dear, that probably means, as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you're right. A young woman was walking along the pavement on Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in hospital unconscious. That's despicable. What sort of coward would attack the poor woman from behind? I suppose you would have finished whoever it was off with a Susato takedown, would you? That is neither here nor there, Mr. Naruhodo. Brace yourself, Ryunosuke. You've angered her now. It is actually newspaper, which is the traditional wrapping for fish and chips, but it is indestructible. The fish is indestructible, the chips are indestructible, and the newspaper is indestructible. Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. He barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest. So, there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit? Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question? Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one. Sorry? There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now. Why ever not? Simple. The prosecutor that's been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Lord Baroque van Zieks. No! Sounds like you've heard of him then. Oh yes, we are very familiar with Lord van Zieks. Believed to be a harbinger of death itself. The Reaper of the Bailey. Lord Baroque van Zieks, who we faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGilda told us about him before the trial, didn't he? More flashbacks. More. When Van Zieks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. Look at this man. Tell me you cannot love him. And in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. This Reaper of the Bailey nickname. I suppose he's earned that because every defendant he advocates against is found guilty, is that it? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zieks, Mr. Naruhodo secured a verdict of not guilty. A word of it. Oh, well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, it's not impossible to save the defendant. Now, you really don't have a clue, do you? What do you mean? Dude looks like a vampire. What happened to that bloke in the end, eh? He's dead. Ah, Marius McGill came a cropper in that omnibus when it went up in flames. So you can't rightly say you saved the defendant, can you? What are you saying? Look, if Van Zieks skipped a death to step on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. Cough, cough, Manfred von Karma. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough. Cough, cough. Cough, cough. I have a good long think about that. If I were you. Are we really supposed to believe that? Are you claiming Van Zieks is a warlock who cursed McGilda to die, Gregson? Yes. That is precisely what he is claiming, Lizard. Right, well, I filled you in as requested, and I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be heading back to the crime scene now. We're still carrying out a few investigations there. It was Briar Road, you said, didn't you, where the incident took place? That's correct, ma'am. And if you head over to the Olden Cells, you can meet the criminal himself. You've branded him a criminal already? He's as good as. Check him like a leaf in his cell, he is. He'll give you a chuckle if nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer and he'll show you the way. Inmate 53. Thank you. So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Is something troubling you, Mr. Naruto? To tell the truth, when I recalled the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... well, If you think it's too much for you, there's no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too. But if the man they've arrested is innocent, you could well imagine he'll be shaking like a leaf in his cell. And I, for one, wouldn't find the sight of that funny. So, if I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. And I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is. But I'd like to try. So I think I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help? Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I am your judicial assistant. Thank you. So then, shall we? Yes! Let's go! Let's go. To the prison. Let us meet our next historical character. Sort of. So, these are British prison cells. Oh, they're ghastly. It feels just like a dungeon. Yes, having experienced it in Japan myself, I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than these cold stone walls. Oh, don't, Mr. Naruhodo, you're making it seem worse. Apparently, our client is in this cell here, but it's so dark at the back there I can't really make him out. I wonder what he's like. Inmate 53, your legal representative is here to see you. Stop by at the back of the cell and show your face at once. Am I a cat, as yet with no name? Calling me by a number. It's utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable. I refuse to answer. Mr. Naruhodo, what? What do you think is going on here? I have no idea, but I wasn't just hearing things, was I? That tirade of complaints was in Japanese! Chat! Meet our defendant for this case. Shh, quiet! They're all around, hiding. I know they are. They're watching, listening even now. I can sense it. Right, so... There you are, you've come to curse me, haven't you? Don't try and hide it, you're a ghost! Born again geek, culturally overjoyed at my cocktail. I'm glad you appreciate... they're trash. I know they're trash. I can sometimes get into a better one, but honestly, I'm okay with them just being trash. A ghost? We mean you no harm, prisoner-san. Are you Japanese by any chance? This is beyond my wildest dreams. Forgive me for that outburst before. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's fine. We were just a little surprised, that's all. Imagine it! It's been 12 long months since I left my hometown, and here I am, in a frightful fix in a foreign land. So hearing the sweet sentimental tones of a compatriot's voice in this dark, damp, dark hell was a most monumentally moving moment. I have no idea what voice I should give him. Honestly, I genuinely do not know how on earth to do this voice. Who could have guessed that this new client Lord Strongheart assigned to us would turn out to be a fellow Japanese man? What compassion my fellow countrymen show to dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to defend a mere foreign student. Noble, nurturing, never-failing Nippon. A first-class lawyer? Oh dear, I think there's been something of a misunderstanding here. This is... Chat, if you don't know, this is Soseki Natsume, the extremely famous Japanese author. Probably the most famous Japanese author of the first decade of the 20th century, certainly in an international audience. But yeah, he's in this video game. I wonder, would you be so kind as to tell us what's happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example. Yes! Yes, I will! Shan't stay sullen and silent. Yes. The first sentence he spoke is, of course, a reference to his book, Wagahai Nakoda Aru, I Am a Cat. And he actually has a pet cat here, who will be named Wagi, and is the cutest character in this entire game. And I'm sorry, Susato. You did your best, but you can't compete with Wagi. Yeah, Zoe, he's like this all the time. This is just what Sasuke Natsume is going to be like. Cuter even than Susato. Animals in this game are unbelievably cute. I'm not sure I understand what he means, but he seems happy. Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be here. Thank you for your cooperation. I am a lawyer, as you said. My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Now, the Hats one was also cute. It's just the person it was attached to was horrible. Case 1. It was a hat swan, but it was still a hat swan. And but come on. Kosek. No, Escudo, sorry. You have to admit, the chicks that the hat swan laid were adorable. No, Zoe. Of course it wasn't. This is an Ace Attorney game. Of course the swan was not dead. And I am Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotaba. I am a visiting student sent here by our government. Notably, notoriously named Natsume. Sasuke Natsume. Sasuke Natsume-san? What an unusual name. Call me Sasuke, please. I'm a poet, you see, a writer of haiku. It's something of a nom de plume. Nom de plume? You mean an alias? Yes. So, yes. Why is he in this game? He actually did a study tour to London in the first decade of the 20th century. I believe it was 1903 to 1906. And most famously, while he was there, he once sent a report, because he was required to send letters to the Japanese government about the study tour, and he hated it so much that one of his reports was like 5 sheets of blank paper. He just straight up sent an empty piece of paper, international, in 1905, to the government of Japan as an official report. The man was extra. But more relevantly for our purposes, right now, what year is it? And then the continued search to figure out what on earth year Ace Attorney takes place in. 1906? 1906. Because we're near the end. Because Sasuke Natsume is about, after this case, will leave England. And therefore it has to be in 1906. Because that's when he left. But the previous case, 3 months ago, was in 1894 or 1895. So, you know. Oh yeah, let's actually pull that up. Since we have the power, let's actually pull that up. Ignore relics of the previous stream. Shh. Ignore the relics of the previous half of the stream. Sasuke Natsume. Nice, the first image is just him. Flawless. He does this pose a lot. That's right, Naruto-san. No, don't be so prosaic. It's much more refined than that. Exactly. Describe everything interesting about modern London. Sends blank paper. And haiku, that really reminds me of home. Did I hear you say that you were a visiting student sent over here by the government? Yes, that's right. A year ago I was told to go and study English. First I had to suffer that misery, and now this! It's beyond the pale! Suffer that misery? Did you not want to study here? No, I mean, I've had an interest in Great Britain for some years, of course. Oh. But! Just because the government tells you to do something, it doesn't mean you can do it! Or, just because the government tells you to do something doesn't mean you can do it? No! What do you mean? If they told me to study English literature, that I could have understood. That's my field. But no, they told me to study the English language. Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly, unreasonable. I see. I mean, to be fair, right? To be fair, if you thought you were doing a lit degree, and it turned out you were doing philology, big oof. Big oof. I sympathize. I love it. Everyone's just like, yeah, that's fair. My chat is the best. You'll immediately just vibe. You just immediately vibe with. Nope. Philology sucks. Understandable. Have a nice day. Only the other day I was told to send a report about my first year here. I tendered a blank piece of paper. Wise words on whitewashy. No, English is not a horrible language. My spicy take here is that English is actually a fairly well-behaved language. You must be a man of great standing. Oh, yes, so I'm often told. And often like to be told, it seems. Exactly, right? Yeah, GA streams. Welcome. Alright. I follow my linguistics prof in undergrad here, but English is actually grammatically a pretty well-behaved language. Right? It has lost inflection in exactly predictable ways. Its strong verbs do exactly predictable strong verb things. And it's just that it's got a bunch of French vocab. It's a West Germanic language with heavy French grammatical and lexical influence. French. French is a much worse behaved language than English is. Because French, diphthongized, or palatalized, then diphthongized, then de-diphthonged its diphthongs. And that explains a good chunk of the weird spellings in modern French. Or that they are cases of Middle French monophthongization. Also Danish. Danish is badly behaved language purely because it is a letter. Right, I'm sorry. No, you cannot... Should not be a consonant. Is a consonant in Danish. And Could you perhaps tell us exactly why you've been arrested, Soseki-san? I didn't do it! I didn't commit that atrocious murder! Murder? Oh, no, it's alright. The woman didn't actually die, did she? But she was stabbed with a knife right before my eyes! Before your eyes? You mean you saw the attacker? I didn't see anyone. What? If I'd seen the person who did it, do you think I'd be locked up in here? Oh dear, it seems this case is becoming rather complicated. Why me? Why me? Why did that silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? It's the curse! The curse of London! It's incredibly, inexcusably, irritatingly inconvenient. So Soseki-san was there at the scene, but he didn't see the attacker. It's vital that we find out more about the case. It wasn't a cursed evening just after the snow had started to clear and heavy with fog. I'd been to the bookshop to buy some books, and I was on my way back to my cursed lodgings. Sure, the bookshop wasn't accursed too. As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I came back up the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her... Heck. She suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed into the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. How terrible! I called out to the woman, but she didn't move. It was like a ghostly, ghoulish, grim graveyard. A slight exaggeration there, perhaps? Here's the thing, chat. I adore that in this scene, Ryunosuke is the calm, cool, and collected one. Fucking our dear sweet dumb boy Ryunosuke Naruhodo is the competent one in this scene. By the way, Grand Chicken Lord, you're right, by the way, France does have an organization that tries to, rule prescriptively on the French, language. Its name is the Académie Française. Oops. I may have hit buttons. That one. I was terrified! I had to get away with her, so I ran, as fast as my legs would carry me back to my cursed lodgings. That's, not good. They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that. Tell me, Soseki-san, was the victim an acquaintance of yours? Don't be ridiculous! You think I know any of these fair-haired English? And a young woman at that. I'm diffident, shy, timid, unsure. I can't talk to people. I see. A young woman unknown to Soseki-san. And at the time it happens? Who else did you see nearby? Did anybody pass you? Regrettably. Apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul. No one? Oh, great. Exactly, I see. Every time I make a mistake in French, it's not because I'm bad at it, it's to disrespect l'Académie. L'Académie Française avec un so the victim was unknown to you, and there was nobody else on the street at the time? That creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it? What conundrum? Sasuke makes you feel seen in the worst way possible. Mood. What do you mean, Susato-san? What's the conundrum? Well, if what Sasuke-san has told us is true, there's something I can't explain. He says that he didn't know the victim, and that there was no one else at the scene. Then he apparently fled without having been seen. I did! But if that's the case, surely this man has to be the culprit? Ah! What did you just say? Nothing! I didn't say anything! Oops, perhaps I thought that a little loudly. Actually, that's not what was troubling me. What I was thinking was, how did Sasuke-san actually come to be arrested? Sorry? He didn't touch the victim, and there was nobody at the scene to see him. So how did the police ever discover that he was there in the first place? Oh yes, she's right. It was him. That accursed great detective. He led the police to me. Of all the bad luck. Accursed great detective. Could it be? I shall never forget that man's name as long as I live. With his haughty laugh and his self-proclaimed greatness. Brash, big-headed, busybody be God. May you be cursed until the end of your days, Hairlock Sholmes. Yes. I knew it. Mr. Sholmes. God, I love this game. I love this game so much. Well, I didn't expect to hear that name from this man's lips, that's for sure. It was the morning after that nightmare had folded on the pavement before me. Lizard, you actually don't have it. Oh gosh. Oh, sorry. I can't scroll up and down because it fast forwards the game. Okay, now I can. Nope. Damn it. I was gnawing on a sliver of hard cheese when some men suddenly burst through the door. They started shouting at me, "This is the police! Put the weapon down!" Yes, it was a thin sliver, and yes, it was hard, but I wasn't eating a weapon. Right, I do want to point out that, except in cases where Ryunosuke Naruhodo is involved, Barack Van Zeeks only goes after the wealthiest of defendants. Right, that's his big gem, is that his specialty is really high-profile cases. Just FYI. It's just case except where we're involved. Disgusting dietary discrimination, devils! You clearly had a trying morning yesterday. And there he was in the middle of all the policemen grinning like a Cheshire cat. Look. That Hairlock Sholmes. It's actually just Hairlock Sholmes. He's English. I've since found out that he's a famous name in detection here in London. Van Zeeks is the rich, but he is also... So he's not really eat the rich because he is the rich. But he is eat the other rich. So we take those. Yes, the great detective is really very well known. And his overly sharp mind managed to deduce my whereabouts, apparently. He thinks I'm the knife-wielding madman. Me, this weak, stupid kitten of a man. I wonder what great deduction process led him to his conclusion this time. Do you mean to say that Mr. Scholl's deduction was the only reason the police arrested you? That would be really most unreasonable. Well, the thing is, I was thrown into a panic when they barged their way in. Of course you were. That's only natural. I was terrified and trembling, and they kept throwing question after question at me in impossible English. Fiendish foreign flimflammery. Heck. Well, we are in England. You can't really blame them for questioning you in English. Good point, but my mind went blank. I knew I had to answer, but I didn't know what to say. So I just keep repeating, like, yes I do, and I'm fine. The next thing I knew, I was in manacles. And before I knew it, I was thrown in here. Oh dear, I'm afraid that's hardly surprising. I promise they do justify it. Then Zeke's is gonna get a lot of screen time in the back half of this game. Don't worry, guys. Van Zeeks gets so much screen time in the back half of this game. I'm so excited. I'm fine. He's not fine now. God. He's so good. Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Oh, you can just call me Naruhodo. And when we're speaking English, a simple Mr. is more than enough. Oh, yes, alright, they've really got to me. This country is poisoning my mind. But please, I beg you to defend me in court tomorrow. You can tell them what really happened. You'll do it, won't you? Well, why? Why is it so hard to say yes to me? Well, the thing is, I'm just a student like yourself, on a study tour. A student? I have defended the case in the Old Bailey. Only the one, though. But at this moment in time, I really don't know what I'm supposed to believe in. I'm confused about what justice in this country even means. Oh, Naruhodo-san. Not even the foreign student who was supposed to be here. I'm a sort of locum lawyer, I suppose. But that armband, that's the mark of a defense lawyer from our great empire. It's a keepsake from the man who should have been here. He was my best friend. A keepsake? I know exactly what they're saying about me. Oh, who do you mean? The lawyers. All the British defense lawyers, they won't defend me. Goodness, why do you say that? For the same reason as you noted before. When it happened, there was only the victim and myself around, and I ran away from the scene of the crime. I'm not a fool. I know it looks as though I must be the culprit. It must be very hard for you, Sasuke-san. Anyway, I'm a student from overseas. I'm just a foreign nobody to them, someone not to be trusted. I heard them openly laughing about me before, in my earshot, without any compunction at all. Any trial for this man would be a waste of time, I said, and of course the foreigner did it. They even had the gall to say, this man doesn't understand half of what's being said anyway. That's awful. They're wrong. I study more English than half the policemen out there in the streets. I traveled halfway around the world to learn about these people's country and its great history. But no one here wants to listen to a man with a strange accent. They all hate me. So, at the very least, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who can listen to me in my native tongue. You could do it, couldn't you? When I look into your eyes, I can see it. I can see what you've been through. Sasuke-san, it's just that... Give me a little time, please. I'll do what I can for the time being. What do you mean? We shall investigate the case as thoroughly as possible. If we can find some clues, it will give us a much better chance, I'm sure. Oh, yes! Yes, thank you! I'll be here, all alone, waiting for you. Welcome, student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire! Where is the press X to hug if hug would be a reciprocated button? Solaria, at some point we ought to play Spiritfarer. It has a dedicated hug button. We should be going then, Naruhodo-san. We have a case to prepare for. Goodbye. Briar Road. Alright, so Lizard, with all the things we were talking about last week, I present to you the poor side of town. So this is where it happened. Briar Road. Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo. Look at that regulation metal helmet. It's unmistakable. The men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak. That is their job, you know? But Mr. Naruto, to see one with my own eyes! They're often depicted in the adventures of Chronicles, but I never dreamt I'd ever come this close. To a real Bobby's helmet! This truly still doesn't look gross enough. I 100% agree with you. But we are getting there. We're vibing closer. We're vibing closer. I think we're supposed to be in the East End here. Or... no. Whitechapel? I can't remember if they ever specify where in London we are. We might be in Whitechapel. What? The helmet? Of course! I have to try one on one day. Well, I hope your hatty dream comes true. Don't worry. We got the Infinifish and chips. The newspaper wrappings shall cover the streets for us. What's the Japanese delegation doing here? Oh! Inspector Grayson! We get a map eventually. We'll be able to check. We'll take a look at that road sign, see if we can see it. Because if it does say Strand Street, well, that means we're obviously in, like, southwestern London, near the Strand. But they kind of vaguely... the geography of London in this game is very, very, very vaguely defined. This isn't on the tourist trail, as I'm fairly sure you're well aware. Yes, of course. We're here to investigate. So you've been to the holding cells then? What do you make of the criminal? He's not a criminal as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect. Is in Croydon. Alright. We'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. It doesn't bother me. The bloke's in court tomorrow, whatever happens. And the verdict's a foregone conclusion. The Stone Cold air of rejection. Take heart, London this time of year is full of Stone Cold air. Heck. That makes it worse somehow. Examine. Well, you at least do get smoke, and smog, and St. Paul's. This does say Strand Street, but this isn't the Strand, so I don't know. From that angle, we've got to be close to St. Paul's. Annoyingly, the dome is symmetrical, so I can't actually tell you what direction it is. So I'm going to actually say we're probably actually in like a back street in the southwest. Like south center, maybe. So not far from the river. Well, we could also be northeast. I guess it depends on where they're saying the, like, exposition is supposed to be. It annoys me. Oh well, let's take a look at the bike. The geography of this place. It frustrates me. Oh, a British bicycle, look! Although the wheel is so misshapen, I'm sure it could possibly be ridden anymore. Someone must have been doing some breakneck cycling. It seems bicycles have become extremely popular in London recently. There's even a movement to change women's dress to allow them to ride as well. The bicycle fad won't last. I don't see why anyone would want to ride something like that. Goodness, do you dislike bicycles? No, not at all. It's not that I dislike them exactly. It's just that any occupation that involves taking both your feet off firm ground seems reckless. If you've ever tried walking in stilts and fallen into a river, I know you'd agree with me. We'll have to hire a bicycle sometime. You can sit behind me while I ride you around. Rolled. Dominated. Wrecked. Oh, look at the windows of that building there. Are you sure they're windows? Yes, but they're all filled in with bricks. Oh, you're right. I wonder why. Perhaps it's an empty property where nobody lives at the moment? There's smoke coming from the chimneys, though. Oh dear, everything still feels very foreign. There's so much we have to learn about this place. That's It's a rather typical old brick building, isn't it? I'm sure it has a long and interesting history. Well, time certainly seems to have taken its toll on the place. It's crooked and sagging all over. In fact, it looks in decidedly worse shape than the other houses around here. We must find some cheap lodgings ourselves as soon as possible. Yes, you're right. Cheap, but ideally with reasonably level floors. Hey look, St. Paul's. The clouds look so big and heavy in the sky, don't they? And with the dense fog as well, everything looks hazy. Well, it is known as Foggy London Town. I can just make out some sort of spy through the fog. It looks like it's still being built, though. Aha! Yes, that must be the Crystal Tower, being built for the Great Exposition that's to open in 6 months' time. Apparently it's going to be very striking, glazed on all sides and the symbolic centerpiece of the exhibition. It's to be the largest exposition in history, is it? I can't even begin to imagine it. There are piles of snow on in the pavement here and there, but the road itself is covered in carriage tracks. It seems carriages often travel down Briar Road. It soon disperses all the snow. I slipped over when I was walking down the pavement earlier. It seems like it'll be far safer to walk on the road instead. No, I wouldn't, are you kidding me? But it's either frozen solid or it's mud. Oh, but you're rather small, Mr. Naruhodo, and dressed all in black. I worry coachman might not see you, and you could be flattened by horses. Well, thank you for the rather small concerns. It's a snowman. Hee. What a delightful snowman. I didn't realize the English had a tradition of making snowmen as well. It looks a little creepy though. Oh, it has a scarf, look! You'd need one if you were out in this freezing cold all the time. I wish I had one. I'm afraid our budget is somewhat frozen at the moment too. We certainly can't afford a scarf. Fuck. Surely the snowman here wouldn't miss his. But the person who made the snowman certainly would. Yes, I know, you're right. Anyway, even if I borrowed it, it wouldn't do much to warm my neck, would it? It's covered in snow. Hello. That's one of the officers from Scotland Yard. The police are making sure the crime scene is undisturbed. I have a feeling that if we wander too close, we'll be clapped in irons. I think perhaps you're being a little overcautious. We've done nothing wrong, so I have no cause for concern. Oh no, I'm not gonna call out again. Twice is enough. Twice I found myself in handcuffs, despite not knowing a thing about what was going on. Yes, you've certainly had some dreadful experiences. I'm sure it's that wide-eyed look of panic you're so proud to. It does you no favors at all. Yeah. This patch of pavement must be where the incident occurred. Yes, it's a very wide, open space, isn't it? That's true. I can't see anywhere an attacker could have been hiding. Oi! What are you foreigners doing here? We just investigating the scene. Conspiring with that mustache fella from Japan, are you? Conspiring? Coming here to destroy evidence, have you? Get out of here before I give you an iron. Go on! You shoot us away like rats. Yes, we should give him a wide berth, I think. What a disappointing experience. Oh, that's a Scotland Yard carriage. They use vehicles like that to rush to crime scenes and cart away criminals. You're very well informed, aren't you? It's long been a dream of mine to ride one of those through the streets of London. We'll just pick up a stone and throw it through one of the windows then. But that would mean being arrested in order to ride it, wouldn't it? Still, if it's the only way, I'll be finding a good stone. No! 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 I wasn't serious! Susato! Susato, please. Susato. Night, children. Thanks for lurking. See you around. Racism go oi oi oi. Or racism says, oi, what's all this then? What's all this? Alright. What have you got? Gregson, what have you got for us? Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I've been fascinated by the place. The Yard is the most sophisticated policing organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am. Oh, and you know, I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet. It does make them look the part, seeing that policeman there with his helmet on. You certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful? Being a London Bobby is hard going, I can tell you. Oh, really? First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes around and rouses all the labourers on his beat so they can get off to work. What? He wakes people up? Yup, raps on their windows with a long pole. Did it myself going back a bit. I had no idea. History lessons, chat. The Bobby works for the people of town. It's just another one of his duties. So, right, generally speaking, the Waker-uppers, I don't remember what their actual name is at a different job, but the idea that a copper would actually be kind of dealing with that job too is actually real. Yes, so the idea of actually waking up people up on their beat is actually like a thing that was done at least sometimes in the period. Yeah, we got Lestrade last case. This is Tobias Gregson, who is a Sherlock Holmes character. In fact, Gregson is older than Lestrade in the Holmes corpus, because Gregson is in his study in Scarlet. Lestrade isn't introduced until Sign of 4, I think? I think Lestrade's in Sign of 4. But Gregson's in Study in Scarlet. So... Knocker-uppers, thank you, KJ. Yeah, so, I know in the US that's a different... Knocker-uppers are a different profession, that their job is to just make sure you wake up early and do the job, wake up everyone else. But I believe policemen sometimes do that job as well. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance. I can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. Let me see. 20 miles, that's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. And when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps. Oh my. I suppose in between all of those duties, Bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well? And chase after criminals trying to evade the law. Yes, like, they're kind of conflating a bunch. Right, they're conflating several jobs here. All real jobs, but yeah, someone else usually will light the street lamps. Yes, usually knocker-uppers, patrolmen, and lamplighters are 3 different jobs. But for the purposes of convenience and to emphasize the fact that, you know, being police is actually not fun, they're just making them do all 3, which is fine. I'm not actually mad about it. I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly, more alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. We do have men keeling over from time to time, I admit. I always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo. Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do. It happened at around 5 in the evening 2 days ago, just there on that open bit of pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind. Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in hospital. The sewers have been built, yes. The sewers are primarily built in the 1850s, 60s, and 70s. By 1900, a good chunk of the sewer systems are intact. They're not great, and they do still largely feed into the Thames without a ton of treatment, but you know, they exist. We take those. I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all. I suppose that means they haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want. Really? Are you sure? It's your policy to give lawyers defense suspects the odd bit of information to go on. I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept. Let's take a look at the area. Gore record. Briar Road, Calavish Road, Meerschaum Street. And this is Strand Street. Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So, who did it, you think? Not much of a head scratcher, is it? Well, I know Mr. Notima is also claiming not to have seen anyone else around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean we can be sure that nobody else was present. I'm sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure. My accent for Gregton is all over the place. Holy shit. How? Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. What? We have two very reliable witnesses, no less. It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see him. There were witnesses now? Heck. Who are these witnesses, Inspector? A fellow and his wife, and the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all of London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard. A policeman? That might change things. And this policeman just happened to be there the exact minute the woman was attacked? Nothing peculiar about that, man. Part and parcel of being a bobby. Catch him banging the act and all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions? Be my guest. You ask him what you like in court tomorrow. Oh. Obviously, at least someone does a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to. That's that then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. Bad legal practice. Even in this period, bad legal practice. A policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Yes, one more thing, Inspector. What? The person who led you to the suspect, I hear that was Mr. Herlock Sholmes? What are you bringing him up for? Was it something I said? The colour has drained from his cheeks. Mr. Sholmes. That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not? Well, Makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London lawyer worth his salt would touch that case with a barge pole. Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. It is all a bit strange, though. Sorry? The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. Yes, we did hear something to that effect. And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum, the master criminals, the violent ones. Master criminals? The violent ones? That's right. He handpicks his victims. Only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. But Mr. Nottingham wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely. That's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but he didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd been expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase. Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's got to be more to it. Some reason he's taken an interest. Really? What sort of reason, Inspector? You think I can tell what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself, at tomorrow's trial. Are you really going to have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he puts it. Mr. Sholmes. Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it was Mr. Nottingham who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. That shows the result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions. Fatal file! The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. Oh, I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case. Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Gibble gabble. Ever seen this before? Yes, that's Rant's magazine. Oh boy. Oof. Jesus. 5 tier 1 gifted subs? Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. And a spicy take too. And another spicy take. Okay. So many subs this stream. Okay. Well. I've got so many ice cold takes for shows because I can just talk about all the shitty adaptations. Heck. Thinking. Well, I don't know. I am not at all sure. So, why don't we do a quick digression into Baroque Van Zieks? You know, let's say it's let's hope it's suitably spicy to say that I think there is more going on than just they want to make Van Zieks at least vaguely likable as to why he's going after usually like basically the Moriartys of the world, right? Right, we're basically waiting for the he's going after master criminals, elites, people who would be otherwise insulated. And I think that's super interesting in the context of the constant comparisons to a vampire. And I think there's actually something going on there. That is more than just they need to make him likable because he's important. I mean, they do make him likable, and he is important. But, I think it's actually an interesting sort of meta-commentary on the vampire in literature from this period. And basically making the it's sort of like he is the vampire that inverts vampires. Vampires as cultural and social commentary is your shit. Good. I am somewhat talking out my ass here because obviously it is, while it is also my shit, my undead is in medieval Iceland. This is Rebecca Merkelbach's book, by the way. It's great, love it. Not Victorian England. But still, quick history of vampires. Vampires get introduced into English literature in like the 1860s, basically. You get a bunch of like very early Gothic lit stuff, like Carmilla. There's a couple of others whose names I can't remember off the top of my head. They're introducing the vampire before Dracula in 1892, and pretty much in all of these, you can basically replace vampire with Orientalist personification of lust, and you're not super wrong. Vernie, thank you. That is the name. Thank you. Phew. And yeah, I think there are some like earlier vampire stuff with like Byron, but Byron's collection is weird, and I wouldn't say that Byron is representative was popular in English literature at that time. I'm more of just Byron is fucking weird. And yeah, it's also fair to point out, you know, Stoker was Irish. A lot of the early people are actually Irish. But still, I don't think that changes the point. But right, it's basically like the dark mirror, right, where Victorian sensibilities emphasize purity, and social decorum, and then the vampire is the other side of the hint Orientalist image of unrestrained sexuality and unrestrained hedonism turned towards violent ends. And so who gets targeted? Well, rich people mostly, actually. Innocent children and rich people. Because obviously those are the innocents, right? In Dracula, apart from Vampire Lucy killing children, or feeding off of children and almost killing them, really, there aren't... The poor people just kind of get off left, right, and center, and the text kind of goes, yeah, this is fine. It's the rich people that matter, though. And so Bram Stoker is still feeding, or not Bram Stoker, Barak Van Zieks, in-game, is actually feeding off of the rich, right? He's feeding off the rich, but he is the inverted inversion, right? I'm not super familiar with Varney, I just know him by name. So if you can elaborate on that, Lizard, that would be awesome. The people who can literally afford to be fed off of, yeah. But yeah, right, so the rich people in Victorian society are held up as, you know, the ones we care about, basically, for a big subgenre of English literature in this period. One could also think of, like, William James as another example of his books are really kind of about rich or wanting to be rich people. You know. Fair. But Lizard, is the vampire the landlord in Varney, or is the vampire feeding off the landlord? That's kind of the thing. Oh, so the vampire is the landlord. That was the thing I was wanting clarification on. Thank you. Great. This supports my point beautifully then. So, right, the rich people are good. Hot Victorian takes right here. Hashtag meritocracy, hashtag totally deserve this, hashtag this is fun. Inverted becomes the vampire. Right, the glutton who feeds off purity, feeds off those who actually do work, and is kind of horrible. Inverted again is Barak Van Zieks. It looks like you're on about a 10-second delay, Lizard, so it's not too bad. Right. So, right, when we invert it, then we take that image and make that London. So the rich are actually super corrupt, often criminal, exploitative, horrible, eat the rich. You invert it, and you get the rich old money noble, right? Instead of the people are good, and then you have the rich old money noble that is the dark mirror of that Dracula. You take that as the base then and stamp that onto here. And you invert it again, and you got the dark spooky person who is actually, like, prosecuting those who super deserve it and are otherwise above the law. And that is Barak Van Zieks. And it is so good! It is such a good meta commentary on Victorian literary tropes. And this whole game, it's another example of why I think this game is so thoughtful in its Victorianism. And I'm a big fan of it. Now that was a very class-based reading. Spoilers. There are lots of other ones, but you know. Meh. Alright, Ice Cold Take. This is one of the best versions of Gregson. Because Gregson's barely in most of the adaptations of Sherlock Holmes. And at least this one gets the fact that Gregson actually doesn't like Holmes. Sholmes. My himbo boy. My sweet himbo boy. Most of them simply don't include him. But, right, this kind of combination of fawning adoration of being able to piggyback off of Holmes's fame, and annoyance that he is doing that Gregson has, is just spot on. Big fan of it. Makes it one of the better versions of Gregson. Meep. Now, back to the game. The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Sherlock Holmes appears. Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called Great Detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Sherlock Holmes tale at all. Well, I suppose there is an element of that. We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public thanks to that obnoxious detective. The man's as dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals. That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly, the Great Detective and the police have a complex relationship. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective. Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion? Oh, yes, what is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, exactly! Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsume did blame Mr. Sholmes for all this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. Susato. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. She's self-aware! She's self-aware! The trouble is, we have no idea of the man's address. It's Baker Street! How do you know that? It's in the stories, of course. G21B Baker Street. The most famous address in the world. Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. We'd better try to find our way there before Susato-san gets any more excited and unpredictable. Hooray! I'll summon a carriage! So we're to have a reunion already, with the Great Detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Well, just gonna stare at us while that happens? Just gonna stare at us, yep. Can we really visit, you think? Oh, Pinstry, I'm sure I must be dreaming. Cutscenes!
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day. Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Big Renata Holmes intro energy? Yes. Also, I've been to 221B Baker Street. It does not look this nice. Just straight up. Don't look this nice. I stood outside of it. I watched the line. The street's fine. It's a flat. In a solidly upper middle class part of London. It's on the second floor. Zoe, Sherlock Holmes is a himbo. Of course he put his real address in there. Also, I think it would be illegal for Ryunosuke to wear his sword in England. Yeah, probably. And no one cares about that. Everyone wears a sword in this game. It's fine. Yeah. The letter is pinned to the wall with a knife. The various adventures. Yeah. Chat. All of you Sherlock Holmes fans are going to freak the fuck out at this room because it is phenomenal. So, this is where the Great Detective makes his living. It feels surreal to be here somehow. They got the Victoria. Oh, shit. Chat, hang on a moment. I need to hide some things for you. Which ones are they? Sorry, they aren't all next to each other. And that was dumb of me. Okay. You can see up in the corner. The Victoria Regina. Put in bullet holes up on the wall. The chemistry set, though not the Great Analytico. The Stradivarius. The piles of random crap. Okay, that's just a shisha pipe, but that's okay. You know, we'll pretend. We'll pretend that's not that. But... And yes, we absolutely let ourselves in. Solaria, it's steampunk nonsense. It's steampunk nonsense. He calls it the Great Analytoscope. It analyzes everything, but he's not quite sure what it does. Are there going to be needles for, you know? Luckily, no. He has a pipe, but yeah, he doesn't, Herlock Sholmes, at no point in the game is said to be addicted to, several of the drugs. So we don't need to worry about that part, which makes sense. It super makes sense, right? In a game that they are targeting to be, you know, an Ace Attorney game, that's a little too... Murder is fine, but drug abuse not so much. Susato-san? Many famous cases of assault here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I've never read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism! Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruto? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So, if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and suck up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please, don't mind me. She's obsessed. Great Mouse Detective watch party when? Honestly, yo. Well, looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anyone home? Oh yeah, Lizard, like that, to my mind that's not even spicy. But yes, he does seem to have it very thoroughly under control, and it is genuinely just recreational when he is bored. But yes, right, there are definitely a lot of readings of it as addiction. Watson certainly seems to think it is addiction in the stories, because he explicitly says, hey, maybe don't do this, but, there's not a whole lot in the stories themselves to indicate that use equals addiction. Oh, do we have a visitor? Hello, is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes? Self-medicating? Yeah. Yeah, I can see that reading. I can see that reading, Blizzard. I'm with it. Spicy take is that it's home self-medicating for what we would now identify as bipolar. Yes. Also, we met her at the end of last case. She pulled a bazooka at us. And at Gina Lestrade. Hello? Wait. Aren't you... Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Mr. Sato, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case. The King of Bavaria? King Wilhelm Gossery Sigismund von Ormstein, of course. King Wilhelm Gossery Sigismund von Ormstein. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there. The tea's brewed, and I have a freshly baked cake as well. Ah, it's you! I knew it. Susato-san recognizes her too. Sorry, I did a Scandinavian pronunciation, Stefan. You are correct. It is obviously Ormstein. But yeah, no, I totally did Scandi pronunciation. Oh, there you are. And taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Oh, good day to you. Well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilda's trial in the defense antechambers. I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Boy, you haven't get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London. Oh, yes, it was challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know. Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color? Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. Hooray, it's a winner. I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Yeah. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you? Yes, Wolfie, remind me after stream, and we can totally make that event. I'm totally okay with that. Hurley? Mr. Sholmes to you, shall we? Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, you think? And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me, I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live here together with Hurley. Chat. Iris Wilson. What, they killed off Watson in case 1. They had to have someone replace him. Oh no, oh, OMG, oh my god. How old is she? Do not tell us. Wilson's good? Yes! Yes! Oh god, I love showing Ace Attorney to people. Embrace the brain rot, chat. Embrace it. Ah, Iris, is it? What a lovely name. What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she flustered all of a sudden? Yes, that's right. And what are your names? Oh, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotaba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely, Susie and Reno. Got it. This is the Watson that enables Sholmes rather than reins him in. Yes. Susie? Runo? There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her, I don't know where to start. Yes, and so do I. So instead of starting, right, we don't know where to start. So let's look around. Let's look at everything. There's so much to see. Nice pipe, by the way. Oh, by the way, they got the straight pipe correct. I think they use a curved pipe elsewhere, but they do have the straight pipe here, which is more original. They are first name, family name. So they're flipped. They're localized. Right, everyone in this game's name follows English ordering. So, I think in the Japanese version, they do call him Naruhodo Ryanosuke. And then, of course, Mikotoba Suzuto, and, you know, Natsume Soseki. Yep. So yeah, they do first name, surname. And so, Suzato's dad is Yujin Mikotoba. What on earth is this huge over-the-top machine? That's the great analytics game. It can analyze anything, really, anything at all. That's absolutely incredible. It's one of Hurley's inventions. It took him a whole year. He said it was to help him with his investigations. What sort of things does he analyze with it, do you know? Well, actually, he hasn't used it for anything yet. Oh. Why not? Apparently, on the evening he finally completed it, it suddenly occurred to him, I don't actually have anything I need to analyze. Oh dear. How about you, Runo? Do you have anything you'd like to analyze? The only thing that springs to mind is this machine itself. Alright, the bullet holes on the wall, up on the backside. Why are all those bullet holes up in the wall up there? Was Mr. Sholmes trying to shoot a pestery fly or something? Mr. Sholmes would never do anything so reckless. Suzato, you have met the man. He would exclusively do things this reckless. No? Those are the letters VR, standing for Victoria Regina. It's Latin for Queen Victoria. So you mean he shot the Queen into the wall? In a moment of boredom, Mr. Sholmes adorned the wall with a patriotic sign, that's all, as pistol practice. Oh, Wolfie, we are not going to finish this case. We are going to get to the next to be continued, and then we are going to call it a night. So, maybe half an hour or so more? Half an hour to 45 minutes? If you're gonna go to bed, absolutely go to bed. But yeah, we are not going to do any case in a single sitting going forward, because they only get longer. So we're just gonna like get to a to be continued and then call it a night for this stream. We'll finish off this case next week. Sweet. Sounds good, Board Game Geek. Good luck. Good luck. Anyway, by the way, period-wise, we are in question marks, because if we are in 1906, as the fact that we are at the end of Soseki Natsume's stay in London would seem to suggest, we are actually Edwardian. Literally everything else about this says it is steampunk, it is like vaguely slightly steampunk Victorianism. So, right, we're gonna call it Victorianism, with the acknowledgement that Victorianism, just like medievalism, incorporates a bit of stuff from both sides into it. Because if we're in 1894, we are Victorian. Also, Queen Victoria is alive in this game. Just, by the way, Queen Victoria is alive. Time means nothing to this game. It's exactly as it's described in the stories. Oh, this is delightful. I'm not sure that the real explanation is any less reckless than shooting at a fly, personally. It's patriotic, Mr. Naruhodo. Patriotic. Alright. Pile of random crap. Let's go. There's all sorts on these shelves. Chemistry apparatus, books, papers, and lots of things I've never seen before. Spooky, scary skeletons. It's all so high, I can't help feeling that the whole lot is going to topple at any moment. I keep telling Curly not to cram so much on those shelves. Good advice. He wanted to look something up in one of those books a while ago. But it was so tightly wedged in he couldn't get it out, so he went and bought a new copy instead. The Stradivarius. Ah, I've seen pictures of Western musical instruments like this. It's called a violin, isn't it? Of course it is. Mr. Sholmes is renowned for his violin playing. Oh, Really? Absolutely. It's often explained in the stories. It's inspirational, Mr. Naruhodo. Inspirational. I immediately started playing the koto, which is the closest Japanese stringed instrument I could find. Which a shame you couldn't bring it with you to London. Oh, yes, well, Papa was beaming when he asked if he would buy me one, but after a while he asked if I would only practice when he was out of the house. So, now it's merely an ornament in my room. That must have been an awkward conversation. Yes. Also, I mentioned that Holmes looks things up all the time. They do Holmes so well, right? Like Lizard. Do you agree? They just do Holmes. They truly do Holmes' aesthetic phenomenally. The box. It looks like that huge metal chest is being used as a table for tea and coffee. It seems very sturdy, with an equally sturdy lock. Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't go around opening things. I always have to keep an eye on you, don't I? You're very mischievous. How did you come to that conclusion? Oh, that chest. Contains some of my most valuable things. And that smile tells me you're not going to give us any clue about what they are. I do like this fireplace. It's one of the best things I've seen since we arrived in the country, in fact. Lingering beside the fire and watching the flames flicker and dance in the grate. It's so relaxing. We can't relax, not that we have so many interesting things on the mantelpiece. Oh, it's just as those described in the stories. It is? Yes, exactly. It's like that Persian slipper, for instance. And my chocolates for 11s. And transfixed by that large jackknife is my shopping list for the market. Oh. Oh, it's not quite how I remember it being described in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Poor Suzato-san, she looks crushed. You got baited, Liz. A mystery shoe, a curious hammer, some mysterious dancing men, a bust of Napoleon. What an entrancing collection. This is the first time in my life I've seen a lonely old shoe displayed as an ornament. Oh, those are all the mementos that Hurley has collected from his past cases. Really? Even the bust? Yes, that's right. When the mood takes him, he likes to throw it on the floor and smash it to dust. The poor defenseless emperor. Mr. Sholmes destroys it? Yes, and then he buys a new one. You make it sound like he has the temperament of an insane sculptor. Ah, how entrancingly bohemian of him. I think the problem you're seeing is that it's too shiny. It's very steampunk Victorian, right? At some point I need to go on a rant about steampunk. We'll do that not this case. But at some point we are going to go, right, we're going to go on a traipse through steampunkdom. Because I think that helps explain some of it. Right, that there's a focus on, like, gizmos and making space for gizmos. And so all the stuff, I mean, part of it is that you have to do it, but gizmos. And so, right, the, like, stylings go a bit funky with that. Alright, good night. Thank you for the support. Thank you for everything. This was lovely. But yeah. Open and bright area. I think also part of that is that it has to be like a diorama. Right? Is that this all has to, like, visually read as a diorama. So that also partly explains some of it, technical limitations. But right, I think I agree with you, right? That there's a focus on some, like, weird furniture. Not implausible, but, weird. And weird in I think that is more congruent with steampunk Victorianism than it is with the historical period. Also, fucking rad. Look at all the pink in this corner. Oh, that's my blackboard where I note down ideas. Oh, interesting. Let's see. Black Peter? What does that mean? Don't you want to hear what Iris has to say, Mr. Naruhodo? I'll come back to that blackboard later. Black Peter is 5 orange pips? Lizard, you probably know better than I do. Is that 5 orange pips? Oh, what a beautiful English tea set, and so neatly arranged. It's a favorite pastime of mine, a cup of herbal tea in the afternoon. Tea made of herbs? That's right, I grow all sorts of herbs in the garden so I can experiment with different blends. Stefan says it's 5 orange pips. Yes! One moment, don't go away, I'll brew part of the special blend I came up with earlier today. She looks delighted. I only hope it's safe to drink. That's a charming little white shelf, and full of charming little bottles too. Oh yes, but don't touch any of those. They might explode. Explode? Oh, the exotic chemicals, do you use them for exciting experiments? Yes, indeed, and as Hurley always says, chemistry is an explosive science. Sorry? I agree, a single discovery can trigger an explosion of innovation all around the world. Or perhaps he just meant it literally. Either way, mental note, do not touch any bottle that belongs to Iris. Ooh, read. Post the herbal teas. Put them in the Discord. I wish to see these completely not safe for life, herbal teas. What on earth is that big black lump over there? Ah, that fascinating thing is called a typewriter. It's a machine that allows you to write on paper without needing a pen. And wizardly quickly, too. Oh, that sounds like it could be very useful for someone like me with terrible handwriting. Alright, I think we've actually seen all the things. We have seen all the things to see in Sholmes' department. So let's actually talk to Iris. Iris! Hello? It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey? Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though, at the time, we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. Look at it! Like this? Ah, thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you? Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade. Oh, Ginny! Yes, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that. You referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption? Exactly. So I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps you should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions. This girl is dangerous. Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician? Hurley, of course, silly. Hurley? Yes, Herlock Sholmes. We live here together. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter. Daughter? Not likely. What? I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate. Your roommate. I love this game so much. Yeah, your point being? I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10 at last this year! Well, what of your mother and father? Oh no, they're not around. Oh, I see. What other story is there? Oh my god, they were roommates! Oh yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course, go ahead, Susie. I am a very great fan of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes and... Oh, you have a copy of Rance magazine! Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting! My stories are being read on the other side of the world! I mean, it's hardly unrealistic for a child to have to work and pay for lodgings in this interesting time period. You're not wrong, Lizard, but I feel like that's not quite what they're going for here. But yes, child labor sure do be a thing. Exorbitant rents enacted on children sure do be a thing. And it's only in the time period, this like late Victorian period of the game, that things are actually finally starting to change about that. So, you know, that's good. My stories? That's right, Hurley is always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness. Last night he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you are the author? Yes, I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure The Speckled Band. The Speckled Band? That's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories, here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but it's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you? So, do you mean to say... Are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Rance magazine? All written by me? Yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read, all written by Doctor of Medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Suzato-san's getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the Doctor of Medicine part? That's all true too. I am a Doctor of Medicine. No, you are not, you child. No, at 10 years old. At 10 years old. Well, that's quite incredible. But Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Yes. I did alter the setting slightly for the stories to be more compelling. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes. Poor Suzato-san, she looks like her whole world has just fallen apart. Rolled! About before? Yes, what's on your mind, Rena? Do tell me. How did you know that I was a lawyer and we just arrived in London, I mean? Yes. Oh, and we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted. Although there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present her Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. No! First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Rudo. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the Dependents' antechamber. But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that? I observed a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Oh, so I was reasonably confident that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted the case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Bailey. I walked right into that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you? Earlier today. Ah, they use those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realize. And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So, that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus the Gilded, the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face, so it cleared that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. I see. But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Henley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. It only caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. A Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been... Mr. Natsume! Now, Reno has that fancy Japanese sword, and I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourselves, so I put two and two together and decided that you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his notes with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Absolutely steamrolled. Well, was it a winner? Were my deductions correct? They were spot on. That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed the certain something of Mr. Jones's delivery. Oh, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This is really very good news. You can tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris, please? Shit, you were right last screen. She is best girl. The Ace Attorney brain rot. I'm so happy. I'm so happy I get to bring you all the Great Ace Attorney brain rot. So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying? Yes, Hurley had just arrived back in London after his sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking, stooped man? Mr. Natsume beyond any doubt. Sasaki-san said they didn't see anyone else on the street at all, but seems there were witnesses after all. Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man shivering in fear. Ugh. Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time. Of course it did, he's a great detective. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Alright chat. Continue thy arguments with great fervor. Susato, Genial Lestrade, with Pet Puppy, or Iris. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it? Definitely, we have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh, Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it apparently. Oh dear, I didn't realize the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. I mean, Iris adopts Wagahai, so... Look, there are compelling arguments for literally all of them to be best girl. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is, but in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Sasaki-san. We'll meet Toby eventually. You all will be thrilled about Toby. You all will be thrilled to meet Toby. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. Iris, best girl, Herlock, best boy. Himbos with smart friends are my favorite. This has been very informative. Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Jones is at this very moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well. Well, I expect Haley is still investigating the scene. Of the case involving Mr. Natsumam, you mean? Yeah, yes, Mr. Natsumam. Haley said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police them still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Do you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there? Yes, we know Inspector Gregson. Oh, goody. In that case, give Gregsy this for me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you... If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know. What is this? 5-shilling piece in the postcard, it seems. Iris's postcard has been entered into the court record. A card for Inspector Gregson with a message on the back from Iris. It reads, tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem. Gosh, that will make the inspector help us, it seems. Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Good luck then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Bat. And I'll be making more special blends of tea, so do come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime. So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the male Scotland Yard at all, we headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. And that, my friends, is where we will pick up next week. Because my voice is shot, we've been going for 4 hours, and frankly, we've covered a lot of ground today. Grade Ace Attorney Investigations. That one. Perfect. No, is paying royalties. She's paying royalties to Gregson. Honestly, chat, you all have no faith. You all have no faith. Well. Anyway. This was an incredible stream, y'all. This was great. I am so happy you all joined me. I had a great time. For using his likeness in the stories. Iris has manners. Anyway. This stream, as always, thank you, Wolfie. We'll sort that out and make an event for it when. Stefan, you did actually miss the postmortem. We did that first. But we will talk steampunk next week. Alright? Let's talk steampunk next week. Because then we can see more of... we'll get some glorious Sherlock Holmes nonsense. I'm just gonna say, the last case in Grade Ace Attorney Chronicles... peak brain rot. Y'all aren't prepared. We're very far away from that. We are very, 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 very far away from that. Postmortem for this game. Gotcha. So, we'll talk steampunk throughout, but when we get to the last case of, in like, 6 months or something, oh, it'll be so great. It'll be so good. Anyway, as always, these streams are brought to us by our patrons, all listed right here. If you want to help support the stream, this is the best way to do it, so do consider heading over to patreon.com/ludohistory in order to check that out. For as little as $2 a month, you can help make sure that these streams can continue getting new games, better production, better gear, better guests, and generally making them the best they can be. Additionally, if you are not yet, do consider joining the Discord. We had a lot of references to stuff that's going to get dropped in the Discord about like Victorian cookbooks with highly toxic teas. You know, if you want to see stuff like that, we've got great historical nonsense and some nonsense history over in the Discord. You can find a link right over here. And if you haven't yet, do follow, consider subscribing, and tell a friend. And catch the streams live if you're watching the VOD on YouTube. Next stream is going to be on Tuesday. We're going to be having a nice chill stream with some more Ender Lilies, so we're going to tune in for some really dark fantasy and some really, really, really chill tunes. It's going to be a really pleasant vibe. Real pleasant vibe. Just have a nice, casual, chill stream. So, I hope you're all looking forward to that. Until next time, I hope you all have a very good night, a good rest of your weekend, a good start to your week. This has been Leader History. Ciao.